If some teams, I think, will have two different starting quarterbacks. So like I have slash for each one. So first, we'll start with the Broncos starting quarterback. I think it'll be him, Bo Nix. I think I think he'll eventually be a good quarterback. I just don't think he's gonna have a good rookie year. I think he'll eventually have a good career. It's just I don't think he'll have a be a good rookie. There might be Jared Stidham, but like Bo Nix, I still think is your top potential starting quarterback. I just don't think he's ready to be a good one. So that's it for the Broncos one. Next, the third one, we got Sam Darnold slash JJ McCarthy. Sounds like it's pretty much a guarantee. Darnold's gonna start off the year as a starter, and then a lot of people are assuming Darnold struggles, and then McCarthy eventually started, which I think it will happen too. Which I have like this. It's just Darnold's not a good quarterback. He's proven he can't be that. Like he might be good in this offense, with all these weapons. I just don't think he's that good. And then you got JJ McCarthy. He is a first round pick, but still, he's still young and he needs the development. That's for the Vikings. Next at 30, we got the Raiders, two quarterbacks, and Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. Sounds like they're both struggling in camp, so it's tough to see who will start. But I think Minshew will be the main starter, but O'Connell might get some starts too. But like reason I have them over the Vikings just because Minshew has proven he can be a good starter at times versus Darnold hasn't, and McCarthy's a rookie, and O'Connell's a fine. He's okay, but he's not that he's not very good. So that's it for the Raiders. Next, we got the Patriots with at 29 with Jacoby Brissett slash Drake May. Jacoby Brissett, he had a decent year with the Browns a couple years ago before they replaced him Watson, but I still don't think he's that great of a starter on a consistent basis. But then you also have Drake May, but what sounds like you're having Brissett as your start of the year. But I still think May will be good. It's just I if he isn't, I'm just going off like who I think. I'm personally going off who I think will start the year off as a starter, and I'm assuming that's Donaby. I'm assuming that's going to be Brissett and eventually May, but I think both of them will start some games. And I had them at 28. You got the Steelers quarterback Russell Wilson. He's not that good anymore, but like he can be decent. So that's why I had some of these guys, but he's not that good. Like if they had like Justin Fields, I think I might have him a couple spots higher as your starter, just because Fields is still relatively young, so you can still get better. Versus Russ, you think you know what he got in him, but he might get worse because he is in his 30s, his mid 30s, so he's not getting any younger. I'll see there. Next at 27, you got rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels for the Commanders. He should be good. I just don't. It's just tough to rank these rookies because honestly, I haven't seen a single snap from him. But I still think they show. But I think he still have a decent rookie year. But I don't think the Commanders are a good team. But he should still be good. And yeah, I mean, ahead of him, just barely ahead of him. You had Daniel Jones 26 for Giants. Daniels was really close, but I just went with Jones just because Jones he hasn't had many good years, but he did have one not this past season, before, and they added a really good wide receiver in Malik Neighbors. They did lose Saquon, but it's not a huge deal when they running back. I'm assuming Jones stays healthy and he starts the whole year. And like there's a reason he's at the bottom, but I still think he's just barely ahead of Jaden Daniels. It's really close between the two of them. But I think next it's going in this year, but next year I think if the Giants still have Jones, I think Daniels will get ahead of him. But going into the year, I think Jones is ahead of him. So that's it for these guys. They're okay. They're all okay starters. They're not very good. Like most of these, at least a few of these are like rookie quarterbacks. They should get better. Versus like the Raiders and the Broncos, you got some and Giants. You got some quarterbacks been in the league for a while, and yeah, that's it for those guys. Let's go to the next slide and go to the top 25. So 25, I have Will Levis. He had a decent year last year, but I hope it's like another year of development. That should be what he needs, and I hope he do. It should do better. He should be good near another. It should be good with another year development. Then just ahead of him, you have another guy in the sophomore year. You got Bryce Young. He did not have a good rookie year at all, but they didn't have any very good weapons. Panthers did their best to add some good help to him. Like they added some guard help, which they desperately needed. Like their interior offensive line was terrible last year. They did draft Xavier Jet to help them out. They drafted Jonathan Brooks to help him out, so I think he should do. He should be a lot better. I don't think he'd be that good, but he should be better with a lot better offense in front of him to help him out. But we'll see. And ahead of him, you got Anthony Richardson. He barely got injured last year because he got injured 3 out of his 4 games he played in. Then he had a season-ending injury. But like a lot of people know he's gonna be a developmental guy. Like he needed a lot of snaps to get better. I think like Steichen showed last year like he can make a lot of like not great starting quarterbacks. Because like Minshew had a good year last year. So I think with the guy with the upside of Richardson, who should have a good year as well. And I feel like the Colts have a better team, so he's just ahead of Young. Then ahead of him, he got this year's first overall pick, and Caleb Williams, rookie from USC for the Bears. He should have a pretty good year. I just don't. It's tough. I don't really think you should really be ranking rookie quarterbacks this high, just because they are rookies, and like most rookie quarterbacks don't do good the rookie year. Like most rookie quarterbacks aren't guys like C.J. Stroud or Andrew Luck or Robert Griffin III. Most rookie quarterbacks struggle because if you're starting your rookie year as a quarterback, more likely than not, your team is pretty bad because they usually have a high draft pick, which usually means they aren't that very good. And then like they add a lot of weapons, yes, for the Bears, but still, it's just there's a lot of a lot of new players. So it's like, how do they gel to start off the year? But I think he should have a good year. Then at 21 ahead of him for the Seahawks, you got Geno Smith. I think he was close. He was close to being just ahead of Carr, but I feel like Carr he didn't have a very good year last year, but he has had multiple good years in the past. Versus Geno, he's only had two. He had one pretty good year in his first year as Seahawks starter. Then last year he still did a decent year, but he wasn't as good, I don't think. And he is getting a little. He is in his 30s. So yeah, but then Derek Carr is just ahead of him. He has not been good these last 2 years very well, but like this rankings, like those obviously Harris ranking, but like him still being this high, like above some of these guys, is based off of some of his top years and like how he did with his second to last year as the Raiders. Like he helped them lead them to the playoffs. It's just yeah, and they still have some good weapons. So we'll see what happens there. And then ahead of him at 19, you got Deshaun Watson for the Browns. He did not have good years at all these last year and a half of the Browns, I'll say, because he didn't start till late in the year with the Browns his first year there because of that suspension. But still, they have a really good team around them, and it doesn't sound like they might probably won't be getting them, but they are trying to get Brandon Ayuk. Like they might be training Amari Cooper back to them, but still, it's like a younger guy. Like that's Ayuk's pretty good. So yeah, Browns have a really good team in front of them. So we'll see what happens there. Hopefully, have a bounce back year. Like if he has a bounce back year to like what he was with the Texans, he's gonna be higher than this, a lot higher than this. He'll be a lot closer to the top 10. Then ahead of him at 18, you got Kyler Murray. He looked good, and but he came back from injury last year. Problem is, he came off that torn ACL, so he didn't play a ton of games. And like, can you stay healthy? And also, the Cardinals not have a good team around them. I just feel like he's shown he can be better these last 2 seasons, and he has that juice right ability, which Murray is a better running quarterback than Watson. Watson's just decent. He's just still a good running quarterback, but I feel like Murray's better. So that's it for Murray. like the Cardinals aren't going to be a good team, but they did have Marvin Harrison Jr., who should be really good and should help Kyler have a good year. Just their defense probably it shouldn't be very good this year, which is should hurt them. And outside of Marvin Harrison and Kyler, and James Conner, he's a good running back too. They don't really have much. They don't have that many good. They don't have a lot of good players on that team. So then ahead of him, he had 17. You got Baker Mayfield for the Bucks. He helped them at least the playoffs last year. He had and win a playoff game. He did good for them last year. Just he has shown he usually doesn't. He usually has. I don't think ever since he's been in the league, he hasn't had two back-to-back good years. Like so, he had a good year last year. He did have a good year previous year. Like he had a good rookie year with the Browns in 2018. He had a bad sophomore year. They did good again the next year. They did bad again the next year. So it's like he's very inconsistent. But if it keeps on how he's always done, he might not have a very good year. But they have such good weapons. They have got Harris Godwin. They still have Mike Evans. So yeah, but it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a little tough. But I still think he's gonna be a good quarterback. Then ahead of him at 16, you got for the Rams Matthew Stafford. You see him in the picture there. He's still pretty good quarterback. It's just like he had a good year last year. He's a little up there, and like the year after them won the Super Bowl, like he dealt a ton of injuries. But the Rams have a lot. They have Cooper Kupp. They have Puka Nacua. They have Kyron Williams. They have Tyler Higbee as a good tight end. They have a lot of good weapons for him. It's just can he stay healthy? And he's also up there. So they kind of got to factor that into it. Just like how is he start declining a little bit soon? Like is that? But we'll see. He's still a pretty good quarterback. I was just ranked him this high. So that's it for those. Then that's it for 25 through 16. Now let's go to the top 15. I don't know why I had Brock Purdy and Black ones, but yeah. So now you get this is where you start to get to some pretty good starting quarterbacks. So number 15, you got Aaron Rodgers. Like last year, obviously he only played 4 snaps. The previous years, last year, the Packers, he did not have that good of a year. So I kind of factor that into it too. Is like, how does he bounce back from his injury? And is he going to struggle a little bit like he did last year at the Packers, or is he going to be his previous few years? I don't think he's at the MVP level anymore either way, but it still should be good. Then at 14, you have Kirk Cousins, now Falcons quarterback. Like if I wasn't factoring in his injuries, he'd probably be like ahead. He'd probably be closer to top 10. But it's just like he's in his mid-30s. He's coming off a major injury, torn ACL. So it's just like how is he going to be the same? Like he didn't running game wasn't a huge part of his game anyways, but still torn ACL is a major injury for a guy that old. So I think that's going to affect him still. We should still be a good quarterback. But and ahead of him, you got a lot of young, really good quarterbacks. Like so, 13, you got the Jags quarterback Trevor Lawrence. He had a pretty good first half of the season, Jags, but then second half, the whole team struggled. But I still think he was a former first round pick. I still think he's gonna do pretty. He's gonna have a bounce back year, and he's gonna have another good year. And it's gonna be. I don't know if they're gonna lead them. He's only able to lead the Jags to the playoffs because the ABC has some pretty good teams. It's gonna be tough. So he's still a pretty good quarterback. And ahead of him, you have Jordan Love. I considered putting Love above Prescott, but Love only had half a good season. Really, the first half of the season he struggled, and Love's got a huge payday, yes, but he's only started for one full season. So it's just like I went for the guy who's had multiple, he has more proven, and has had a lot of good years at Prescott above him. But Love's still really good quarterback. Like Packers have a lot of young weapons, so like gonna year development but giving them a year development, he should have another good year. But like so next year, if he has another good year, I'll move him up. So yeah, and then ahead of him, he went for the Cowboys. You got Dak Prescott. He hasn't had the greatest playoff success, but he's still a good regular season quarterback. So he should still be ranked high. But ahead of them, you got some really good. You got some pretty good quarterbacks ahead of them. Like the top 10 quarterbacks are all pretty good. and all these guys I have. So it's tough to rank him out of the top 10, but he's just out of it. At number 10, you got CJ Stroud. He was a rookie last year, but he had a whole good rookie year. He also helped them win a playoff game. The Texans did really good with him next year. He had a good rookie year. And then they added a guy like Stephon Diggs, a guy like Joe Mixon, and they also had a lot of young weapons. So like this Texans team should be scary as well. So yeah, like Stroud's a really good quarterback. And ahead of him, you'll have Jalen Hurts at 9. Hurts, he had a really good year when they went to Super Bowl a couple years ago. He had still a good year last year, but like a lot of people had high expectations from last year after that previous season. But I still think he's a good quarterback, obviously, since he's in the top 10. But like, if I did these rankings last year, he would have been higher. I feel like, but just based off how considering this last year, I think he's still not be. He's a little lower. And Jason Kelsey's retired, so we listen to him. So we'll see, we'll see if the touch push is still as effective as it used to be. But like, that's how he got most of his rushing touchdowns. So like them, we'll see how that if that still is as effective. We'll see. But he's still a good quarterback. Then ahead of him at 8, you have Jared Goff. Like he's had some like ever since he came to Detroit, like this past 2 years, he's had some really good seasons. Like the Lions did really good last year. He helped lead the Lions to their first playoff win and division win in over 30 years. Yeah, and like the Lions still have a lot of good weapons around them to help him out. Like they have Amon-Ra St. Brown, they still have Jahmyr Gibbs, they still have David Montgomery. They have one of the best offensive linemen one of the best offensive lines in the league, and they have Sam Laporta. It's like yeah, they have a good offense around this to really help. And then ahead of him, I have Tua Tagovailoa. He has had he has tended to struggle a little bit at the second half of the seasons. He has helped with a few injuries, but this past year he doing pretty good without any of them. And they have like another team who has some really good weapons for him. They have Tyreek Hill, they have Jalen Waddle, they still have Mostert, they have Devon A. Chain. They drafted another running back. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But still, they have some They have some pretty good weapons as well. That's also affecting some of these rankings. It's like how, like obviously, obviously, if a quarterback does really good without a lot of good weapons, that's awesome. But like how good of years these guys are, obviously, having good weapons are going to help. He does have that, so I feel like Tua and Dolphins are having a good year. They're going to be battling the Bills for that division title. In number 6, you got Brock Purdy. I don't know why I put it in black ones. So yeah, I don't know, but it is. So he had some good years, a couple years, like last year. Like he had to start for a little bit. A lot of people thought he was an MVP candidate, but then at the end, then he had a few bad games. But then he bounced back. But he was just what. But like, especially after that game against the Ravens, like Lamar showed he should be the MVP that game. He dominated one of the best teams in the league, in the Niners. Yeah, so he's still pretty good quarterback. But the top 5 quarterbacks in front of him are really good. Like those are franchise quarter. Like all these top 10s are franchise quarterbacks. But these guys are franchise, like really, really good franchise quarterbacks, like top level. So that's it for 15 through 6. All some good quarterbacks. So now let's go to the top 5. At 5, Herbert he dealt with some injuries last year, but I feel like the Chargers have a better team around them with a new head coach. They drafted a really guy should be a really good attack on Joe Alt. I think they'll have a good year. So I think, and these are really good quarterbacks. I'm at 5. I got Justin Herbert. He's pretty good. Then at 4, I got Josh Allen. He's also not a really good quarterback. He's a good running quarterback, but sometimes he does throw some bad interceptions, like in the big time plays, like his not like and when in 2022 when the Bills faced the Vikings, like at the end of the game, he had a bad interception it cost them the game. Like he had 2 bad interceptions that game. That's just one I can think off the top of my head. But yeah, he's still a really good quarterback. And at number 3 ahead of him, I have Joe Burrow. He he's on our really good quarterbacks. Just factoring in part of it's the injury he had last year. So how does he bounce back right away? And also moving Lamar ahead of him is because he did win an MVP. But Burrow's still really good quarterback. Then ahead of him at number 2, you got our AFC North quarterback in Lamar Jackson. Like I considered putting him over Mahomes, but just because Jackson has won a couple MVPs now, but Jackson hasn't led the Ravens to a ton of playoff success. When Mahomes has shown there's a reason Chase has won back-to-back Super Bowls. Mahomes is a big part of that. And Jackson has not had a lot of playoff success. He's only won a few playoff games. Versus like Mahomes, he has made it to the AFC Championship game at least in every year he's been their starter. Versus Jackson, every year he's been their main starter. He has made they have made the playoffs, except for a few years ago when he dealt injury at the end of the season, and then Huntley wasn't able to lead them playoffs, but he hasn't. This rookie year they lost in the wild card round to I think it was the Chargers. The following year they lost to the Titans. Ravens were number 1 seed that year, but they didn't win a single playoff game, and they lost. They lost in the divisional round, but they didn't win a playoff game because they had the bye week that year. Then the next year, I am blanking. Following year, he won his first playoff game. He beat the Titans, but then the next game, he did not have that good of a game. Ravens only had a field goal. They lost to the Bills in the divisional round, but still, then following year, he dealt with that injury at the end of the year. He was having a good year, but then the Ravens having a good season, but then he went down. They missed the playoffs. And then this year, obviously, they won the division. They were number 1 seed again. They won the divisional round, but then they did not do very good. They got a championship against the Chiefs, and they lost. So that's all I gotta say about Jackson. The number 1, you got Patrick Mahomes. Like he might not have had the best quarterback year last year, like Lamar Jackson won MVP, yes. But Mahomes has won now 3 Super Bowls. He's great in the playoffs, and like last year, some of those picks was Easter egg thrown, but not his fault. It wasn't his fault. He had a lot of that drops. Like against the Lions week 1, like he had a great throw right to Kadarius Toney, went right through his hands, and the Lions brought it back, picked it, and went out back for a pick 6. Like, what is he supposed to do about that? So then, like, hopefully they have some better outs in front of them. They drafted J.P. Wardy. They have Rashee Rice in their development. They brought in Hollywood Brown, but he sounds like he's going to be out for 4 to 5 weeks with a major injury. I can't say I'm blanking what it is outside of my head, but still, so he won't be here right away. That's a loss. And they still Travis Kelce. They have Pacheco. So yeah, and they have on the top offensive lines in the league. They have a really good offensive line as well. So we'll see what happens. But Mahomes is number 1. Like until he has like a terrible until he has a terrible year, or like Jackson, and Mahomes doesn't do good in the playoffs, or like Jackson wins another MVP and does have playoff success, Mahomes is gonna be number 1. Until or if Burrow and Allen have MVP, unless they lead their teams to Super Bowl and they have a really good year. It's gonna be tough to upset and to get ahead of Mahomes at these quarterback lists, just like how Brady was for the longest time. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you have a good rest of your day.